Roamed and rambled, I've followed footsteps of the downtrodden.
Oh, g'day folks. How you going? Thanks for dropping by. And here we are. It's the last part in this 11-part series of Inside the Songs of Darkness Calling, and we're going to look today at the title track, Darkness Calling itself. A very odd little number that I again wrote in those COVID sessions. I got my little 4-track out to amuse myself and to keep myself occupied. Maybe thinking I'd put down some demos or do something. And I think I demoed, at the time I did a demo of Small Towns, and then I did a demo of Jesus for a Vaccine, which was a song that I also wrote during lockdown. And then whilst I was working on one of those songs, the genesis of Darkness Calling came to me, and I stopped everything and wrote the song really quickly and then demoed that. And there is actually that original 4-track demo up on my Bandcamp, which you can have a listen to, and it's not that far removed from the final song that ends up on the album. Of course, sonically it's probably a little way off, but it's all there. And we had initially a lot of trouble trying to figure out how to do this song. I knew I didn't want it to just be another band song. The way I could hear it was a field recording, something that Alan Lomax might have recorded, almost, a work gang, and a spiritual something with massed voices. And we were having trouble. I didn't really like the way the band, everybody playing it, it lost some of its swing or some of its ebb and flow. And so in the end, we sort of just stripped it right back to my guitar and Rob sort of just clunking away on the banjo, not trying to play anything too fancy, but just giving it some sort of rhythm. And Connor does a little solo. Tim bows some bass under that solo, but other than that, that's all the instrumentation of the song. And I guess the main parts that stand out to me on the song itself, the recording, are the vocals that the boys have done, and Beck Chapman's wonderful vocal cameos, which I can't wait for you to hear. And there's only 2 parts, and it's sort of like, it's either something eerie from The Wizard of Oz or Pink Floyd's Great Gig in the Sky, but it's just this vocal harmony that's so right and just gives the choruses that little something extra that make you go, wow. And that's what I love about this recording process, is that you go in with something and you come out with something that you didn't know existed an hour previous. And there were a few little moments on this album, and that's one of them for sure. And of course, it's impossible to do live, but it's there on the record, and I hear it, and I'm very proud of what we achieved. So I can't wait for you to hear it. Now, the song itself, it became the title track of the album because it sort of resonated in a lot of ways when I wrote it at the time. It was I guess it was during the elections in the States and all of the hoopla that was going on there, and it just seemed like everything was unraveling. Even from a distance, it just looked so wrong, and there were clear paths being formed, and I was just wondering which path do you take in life? There's obviously a divide between the good and the bad, and this was a song, I guess, written with probably from the devil's standpoint. I feel like there's this evil presence that sort of has existed for as long as mankind has, and it's that presence that sits on the shoulder of men. And I say men because it's usually men that create the evil in this world, and not always, but most of the time. And it's I think it's that presence that's just sitting there guiding you through the darkest periods of human history. And it sounds intense, I know, but I guess it was I don't know, just it's another spin on that classic Rolling Stones song, isn't it? So, Darkness Calling, it's the final song, it's the final track on the album, and it's it's a tough one to perform, but I'll give it a go for you, and yeah, see what you think. I've roamed and rambled, I've followed footsteps of the downtrodden and the broken-hearted. I've worked my way around this great big planet, from its shining rivers to its dirty cities, and all the time it calls, the darkness calls me back home. Well, I've drunk with devils and laid with harlots, I've gambled in temples and worshipped idols. I've followed orders from bloodthirsty tyrants. I've marched in homage through ransacked empires, and still it calls me. The darkness calls me back home. But all I know is when it's time to go, 'cause I'll see it through like I always do, with no shining lights, no heavenly choirs, just the obvious yawning with the world in mourning. It's the darkness calling, the darkness calling me back home. And all my travels down through the ages, there's been one thing that brings me comfort, that despite my best of intentions, mankind will find a way to resurrect things, but still it calls me. The darkness calls you back home. So all I know is when it's time to go, you'll see it through like you always do, with no shining lights, no heavenly choirs, just the obvious yawning with the whole world burning. I am the darkness calling you back home, calling you back home. Darkness Calling, ladies and gentlemen. And it does have a ride out with some fiddle and a little harmonica actually, but I'm not going to do that now. That's the song, that's the crux of it, and you get the idea, and that's how it was written. And that brings to a conclusion the album, Darkness Calling, in its entirety. We've played it through over the last 11 parts, and I hope you've enjoyed what you've heard. And if you have enjoyed what you've heard, it's your last chance. Well, it's not your last chance, but it's a good time to get onto the Bandcamp and pre-order the album. Help us get it out there, help us pay for it. And in lieu of a crowdfunder, we're doing this pre-order campaign. And I do appreciate so much everybody that's already ordered their copies. You don't know what it's done to alleviate some of the pressure and the stress of trying to finance this thing. So thank you very much for your faith in me and my music. And head over to the Bandcamp. You can see what's on there. There's Darkness Calling on CD on 180 gram black vinyl. What else but black? There's a few copies left of the limited edition coloured vinyl. There's a couple of different t-shirt designs. There's some bundles. There's the wonderful slip mat, and of course a stubby holder, and that little torch, keyring pocket torch, to shine a light in your darkness. And don't underestimate the value of a little keyring torch, because you never know, you always need a light. And sometimes you don't have your phone, and it's always going to be there with your keys, so that's pretty handy. The wonderful art from Annie Walter, which I can't speak highly enough of this. Every time I look at it, it makes me really happy, and it was a bit of a process getting to this, but we got there, and I'm super pleased with the way that's come up. And there's a launch show at George Lane to be announced very, very soon, so watch this space. But I'm very, very excited to be promoting a launch show for the album at George Lane. What a wonderful venue. So watch this space. We'll be putting details of that up really soon. So thank you all for joining me down along this trip through the songs of Darkness Calling, and the processes behind the songwriting and the recording. And I guess we should give a shout out to Mr. Finn Keen, who guided us through the process and recorded the album at Head Gap there and did a wonderful job mixing it, and to Mr. Joe Carra at Crystal for mastering the album as well, because it's come up a treat, to Annie for her wonderful art, and the John Ryan, and to young Campbell James for their videos too for the project. So and Mitch Power for his photos. So thank you guys for helping me bring my music not just to fruition, I guess you could say. And it's a wonderful thing putting out an album. It's a lot of work behind the scenes, but you guys in your own way have helped assist us get there. So thanks so much for being here and checking out these little vignettes for the songs, and I'll see you down the road, and stay well until then. Here's to Darkness Calling.
So all I know is when it's time to go, you'll see it through like you always do, with no shining lights, no heavenly choirs, just the abyss yawning, with the whole world burning. I am the darkness calling, the darkness calling, calling you back home, calling you back home.